This is from Indian Aerospace and Defense magazine. We are here at the Singapore Air Show with Mr. William Blair, the Vice President and Chief Executive for Southeast Asia and India for Lockheed Martin. Appreciate your time being such a large area for you now after spending a decade in India. How do you feel to be moving on to staying in Japan now?
Well, thank you, Kamal. I really appreciate the opportunity. As I was mentioning, I've spent really 3 decades working in and out of India through my career, actually, with 3 different aerospace and defense companies. I just spent the last 4 years there, and now taking on a broader role, but still have very much India is a major part of that responsibility. Though I'm based in Tokyo, I spend a lot of time there. But you know what? It gives me a chance to look at how we integrate our capabilities. We talk about integrating capabilities with like-minded partners. You oftentimes hear that about with a Quad, maintaining a free and open Pacific. And so in my role, I have the ability now to do that in a much more impactful way, working with our capabilities and our team in India, of course, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, and we have offices, of course, here in Singapore, the Philippines, and Jakarta. And so we like to think about what we're bringing and delivering is working together with like-minded partners, that collective and strategic deterrent capability to deter conflict, right? And to have a strong defense and a very strong security posture.
Lockheed Martin has provided India with a range of advanced defense technologies across various domains to enhance the country's military capabilities. These technologies have supported the Indian Armed Forces in areas such as aerospace, naval systems, missile defense, strategic capabilities. What other plans are in the pipeline vis-a-vis Make in India initiatives?
Well, it's a great question, Kamal. I mean, for us, we're very proud to be a part of the Make in India campaign. And in fact, over the last 2 decades, establishing partnerships, not just with the very large defense companies. We've got a wonderful partnership with Tata Advanced Systems Limited, and the joint venture that we have, Tata Lockheed Martin Aerostructures Limited, building the C-130J empennage in Hyderabad over the last 14. We delivered over 200 empennages. And we've grown the indigenous content, and to do that we had to grow and expand the aerospace and defense ecosystems of suppliers that we could work with, exactly like we did with the S-92 cabin production, the helicopter cabin production, actually migrated from Japan to India. We built a very large number of S-92 cabins, and in both cases we've increased the indigenous content, again working with MSMEs and even startups now more recently. So that is a foundation for the future programs. We know there's a big requirement for the medium transport aircraft, the MTA, and so our C-130J has been delivering on its mission commitments in the highest levels of availability and reliability in the Indian Air Force fleet. Very unique mission capability, high altitude, unprepared runways. And that's a great fit for a much larger requirement as you recapitalize that fleet of transport aircraft. We see an opportunity for up to 40 to 60, maybe 80 aircraft. And to do that, we're going to have to build that aircraft in India. And that's our commitment, just as it is on the other programs that we've been working. The other opportunity, again, building on that foundation, is the multi-role fighter aircraft. In one of my earlier roles, dating back to the mid-2000s, I was involved in the MMRCA campaign, worked all through that on multiple platforms. And that's a tremendous requirement, and an important requirement that fits in between the light combat aircraft, the Tejas, and the other twin aircraft that are very much the mainstay of the Indian Air Force today. So we're excited about the opportunity to bring our capability there. We call it the F-21. But we made an investment in advance of requirement, just like we did on the C-130J. We put the production of fighter wings in our Tata Lockheed Martin Aeronautics Limited facility, Tilamal. We announced that last year. And so that's a great, testament, commitment on our part, just like we made that same commitment on the C-130J 14 years ago.
You made a very strong and realistic bid, even promoting not to sell promising not to sell it to any other customer.
Correct.
Is it still on? Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, we're fully committed to our F-21 offering. In fact, we've always said for the last many years, I could say 5 to 10 years, that what our commitment is not just to build the F-21 in India, but to be part of a global ecosystem, a global fighter ecosystem that is substantial in the region. And so we believe, even on the C-130J, for instance, if I come back to that, that's an export opportunity, not just, okay, meet a very large requirement for India, that's important. But it's also important to know that, okay, if we can do this right and effectively with the right partners, we can build aircraft for export from India, and that's the Make in India, Make for the World. So I think I mentioned already the investment in the wing production, the fighter wing production, but I will also mention what's probably one of the biggest developments in the last 12 months has been the commitment of GE Aerospace to build fighter engines in India. Of course, that's under the light combat aircraft, their existing F404, F414 engine, but that is actually setting a great precedence and foundation for what we could do with GE, our partner engine on the F-21. And that applies to other systems as well. We have other system suppliers on our electronic warfare capability, again, that already have partnerships in India. So what we're offering is an integrated platform with systems that are made in India. And that's an enduring solution, both from a capability and sustainability.
C-130 empennage manufacture has been successful, as you mentioned just now. The Super Hercules is also part of India's C-130J roll and roll of University Design Challenge.
Right.
Through this initiative, Lockheed Martin has been research grants for teams from Indian universities to work with local industry partners, mentors from India and Defense Research and Development Organization. And do you have any plans to widen the scope for empennages to other specifics?
Well, I think first part of your question related to the university collaboration, we are really proud that we were able to engage universities on a challenge.
You have given grants to them,
giving grants that would lead to a roll-on, roll-off capability that we can implement to not just meet the Indian Air Force requirement, but a global requirement. We developed a very large composite bulk fuel tank as part of that solution, that roll-on, roll-off capability. That could be a tremendously impactful solution for humanitarian assistance and disaster response, as an example. We also had a drone challenge. In fact, we've got an event this week in New Delhi celebrating the winners of that drone challenge. And our intent in these efforts is to, one, advance capability, two, engage in science, technology, and math, really promote the interest in STEM and frankly in defense and aerospace. And then lastly, even working with startups, finding those disruptive technologies that our young innovative minds can come up with that are going to be the future capabilities we want to integrate into our systems of the future.
Missile defense requirements, what is the latest progress on that?
Well, in terms of integrated air and missile defense systems capabilities, we have a long history. Of course, you're familiar with the Patriot PAC-3 MSE capability. We've long endeavored to work together with India on that very challenging and stressing air and missile defense requirement. So we look at it as a layered defense solution, whether land-based, as you're asking, with PAC-3 MSE integrated and collaborating as a layer underneath our THAAD system, a terminal high altitude area defense system. So that remains a great opportunity. I know, the Indian Air Force and the Indian Army have to make their decisions on certain time-bound time frames. That's understandable. But when you look at the future, escalating and advancing threats, we need to keep pace with those. And so sometimes, at least the way we look at it, it's looking at a layered solution that can counter the advanced threats. India has tremendous capabilities that they've developed with DRDO, with both the defense public sector units and the private sector of those integrated air and missile defense solutions. But You can always see how do you find other ways to bring in other elements that overlay and provide a much greater level of defense in depth.
It would be fair to say you have a pole position where joint ventures are concerned with India's military needs. From radar and sensor systems to maritime security to SATCOMs and cyber security, Lockheed has a foot in the door. How would you see this relationship flourishing in the future? And there are specific strategic steps you are taking to make it even stronger.
Yes, no, thanks, Kamal. I've already talked about our two joint ventures, Tata Lockheed Martin Aeronautics Limited, TLMAL we call it, and then Tata Sikorsky Aerospace Limited, TCEL. Between those two businesses and joint ventures with Tata, we've been able to really, I think, be a catalyst for the aerospace and defense ecosystem in India from the early days. From before we termed it and called it Make in India. And so we're proud of that history. But more importantly, we're proud of what that's achieved. It's generated for us well over $650 million worth of exports from India to the U.S. And that's part of a much larger export value from the U.S. OEMs like Lockheed Martin to the U.S. I think we looked at the numbers over the last 5 years on an aerospace and defense combined, about 27% of the exports from India are going to the U.S. And then when you look at it on a pure defense basis, it's well over 35% of the pure defense exports are going from India are going to the United States. And that's as compared to maybe 12, 13% to France and single digits to Russia and Israel. So what does that mean? That means we've established a foundation for future collaboration, future partnerships built on a reputation of trust that we deliver. And so we don't want to just be seen as executing and implementing foreign military sales, which we're proud of, right? That we're delivering capability, but actually we're actually doing that as part of a real strategy, as you say, in terms of how we make in India and make for the world. And I should have mentioned also the MH-60 Romeo, a great example. So we built S-92 helicopter cabins in India through our Tata Sikorsky joint venture. And then when it came time to make a decision for the MH-60 Romeo, we had that foundation that we could point to when asked, okay, what are you making in India on helicopters? Now we'd like to take it to the next level. We'd like to build full-up aircraft, whether it's fighters, transport, or helicopters in India. The capability's there, it's proven. The partnerships are there, it's demonstrated and trusted. And so I think we're in the best position to deliver both value and capability. Yes.
Working with Lockheed Martin, you had a very wide and large supply chain industry.
Yes.
Where you would have an annual conference.
Correct.
More than 3,000 supply chain vendors you have.
Mm-hmm.
Do you increase those numbers, or are you still based on those numbers?
We've been running and doing that annual supply chain conference, and it's been a wonderful opportunity to us to engage. Uniquely through COVID, we found a way to do that in kind of a hybrid mode. We're continuing to grow the supply chain connections from India to the U.S. And most recently, through our LM Ventures organization. LM Ventures is how we engage and fund startups. And so we now have a startup ecosystem, or a startup relationship that both from the U.S. side as well as directly in India, we're finding a way to develop or help fund startups. That dates back to 2007. So our India Innovation Growth Program, IIGP, dates back to 2007, where we've actually supported startups generating over 350 agreements and well over $100 billion worth of, well over $1 billion worth of value from that. And in fact, I was at a panel just last year, and there was a startup on the same panel, and he cited he was one of the first cohorts back in 2007, and now he's a full-up and operating defense company in India, meeting the missile system requirements with the Indian Army and the Indian Air Force.
A word about outreach and offset elements in the current multiple relationships.
We see offsets really as an opportunity, not just an obligation, right? We're committed to meet our offset obligations, of course, but ultimately we're delivering the value that we need through supply chain partnerships and investments that we're making, whether it's through joint ventures or through our investments in research and development, and then also trying to grow that supply chain. So yes, we have a foundation, but we need to take it to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blair. It comes to my
Say thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to have partnered personally with India since 1996, and through many experiences, it's been a journey that I've truly enjoyed. Not just enjoyed, I felt is offering. We've offered tremendous partnerships and capability along the way, and I think the future is incredibly bright. The sky is not the limit, and we look forward to working across all domains as Lockheed Martin in India, as we've already established the foundation across the air, land, and sea domains.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you very much
you.
for
Thank
your
you.
pleasure.